Peace, family, and welcome back to A Griot's History, where we break down the past so you can shine on that AP African American Studies exam. I'm your griot, Dr. Hill, and today we're moving through one powerful story, the journey from escape to resistance, to wartime service, and finally, to emancipation and Juneteenth. We're covering the final units in Unit 2. That includes the Underground Railroad, the power of photography, slave narratives, Black participation in the Civil War, and the meaning of emancipation. And throughout, we're practicing your skills, argumentation, source analysis, and contextualization. But before we begin, let's start with our Black popular culture moment. Think about the film Queen and Slim. Two people on the run, navigating danger, relying on strangers, safe houses, and hidden networks. It's fictional, but the feeling is real. Uncertainty, courage, danger, and the hope of reaching freedom. Now imagine that experience not in a car on a highway, but on foot, in swamps, forests, barns, and back roads. That's what thousands of enslaved African Americans faced as they traveled on the Underground Railroad, trusting in courage, community, and secrecy. And that's where our lesson begins. The Underground Railroad was a covert network of Black and white abolitionists who offered shelter, transportation, and resources to enslaved people escaping the South. An estimated 30,000 African Americans reached freedom through this network, traveling to the North, to Canada, even Mexico. But escape had consequences. That's because so many people fled, Congress had to respond. And they passed the Fugitive Slave Acts of 1793 and 1850, which allowed local governments and even everyday citizens to capture Black refugees, free or enslaved, and return them to bondage. No Black person was safe. Nobody symbolizes this movement more than Harriet Tubman. She escaped slavery and returned 19 times, leading about 80 others to freedom using spirituals as coded messages. Her brilliance continued during the Civil War, where she served as a spy and nurse. In the Combahee River Raid, Tubman became the first American woman to lead a major military operation. Our required sources, Tubman's reflection in The Refugee and Bradford's Harriet, the Moses of her people, help us argue that Tubman's leadership was both strategic and revolutionary. African American leaders used photography as well, a brand new technology to counter racist stereotypes by presenting themselves with dignity, pride, and humanity. Sojourner Truth sold carte de visite photographs to raise funds for abolition and to promote Black women's leadership. Her portraits told a story. I am a leader, and I am worthy of freedom. Frederick Douglass was the most photographed man of the 19th century. His portraits and those of Harriet Tubman showed Black achievements and potential. Our required sources include the Harriet Tubman photographs from 1868 through 1908, which we use for our source analysis. So what was Tubman wearing? How was she posed? What message do these photographs send? And finally, contemporary artists like Bisa Butler, whose work I Go to Prepare a Place for You, honors Tubman's courage through modern African American artistry. Laws against sexual assault did not apply to enslaved women, yet many resisted, fighting back and running away with their children or using plants as abortion-inducing drugs to prevent their children from being born into slavery. Their resistance was physical, emotional, and strategic. Narratives, slave narratives in particular, revealed brutality, escape, literacy, and humanity, helping fuel the abolitionist movement. Now, we have to understand something. Men's narratives often emphasize autonomy and manhood, while women's narratives highlighted domestic life, vulnerability, and trauma. Narratives by Mary Prince and Harriet Jacobs advanced both abolition and early Black feminism. Prince's History of Mary Prince exposed the violence enslaved women faced, and Jacobs' Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl described hiding in an attic for 7 years to protect her children. The skill of argumentation proves that slavery was gendered violence as well as racial oppression. Thousands of free enslaved African Americans joined the Union fight for abolition and citizenship. Men fought as soldiers and laborers, while women served as nurses, cooks, laundresses, and spies. Enslaved people fled to Union lines, while free Northern Black people traveled to the South to help build schools and hospitals. Of the 200,000 Black men who served, 150,000 had been enslaved. Black soldiers believed that their service demonstrated their rights as citizens, but they faced unequal pay. They faced harsh conditions, and the threat of re-enslavement or even execution if they were captured. Civil War era photographs of Black washerwomen and Charles Redmond Douglas help us understand how to contextualize this. These images show real people shaping the Union war effort. The 1863 Emancipation Proclamation definitely freed enslaved people, but only in Confederate states still at war. Border states kept slavery until the 13th Amendment in 1865. This amendment ended legal slavery, except as punishment for a crime, freeing 4 million African Americans. But this reminds us that this did not apply to the nearly 10,000 Black people enslaved by the indigenous nations. Freedom came only after treaties in 1866, without granting tribal citizenship. Juneteenth marks June 19, 1865, when General Order No. 3 was read in Texas, announcing that all enslaved people were free. It declared absolute equality, the first U.S. document to use such language. African American communities in Texas in particular celebrated Freedom Days long before Juneteenth became a federal holiday in 2021, with spirituals, feasts, new clothes, and joy. Freedom Days honor the ancestral struggles to end slavery, the pursuit of equality after 1865, and the power of joy even when freedom was incomplete. Our photos from Juneteenth celebrations in 2019 and 2021 in Galveston show that this tradition is alive and evolving, especially in Texas. So here's your snapshot for preparation for the exam. The Underground Railroad was a covert freedom network, and Harriet Tubman's leadership proves the power of resistance. The photographic images of Douglas, Tubman, and Truth countered racist stereotypes. Slave narratives by Mary Prince and Harriet Jacobs show slavery's gendered brutality. In the Civil War, 200,000 Black men and thousands of women shaped the Union victory. And finally, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, and Juneteenth celebrates freedom, struggle, and joy. Before we close, here's the quick takeaway. The Underground Railroad proved the power of collective resistance. Photography reshaped Black identity and dignity, and slave narratives exposed gender brutality and fueled abolition. Black service in the Civil War pushed the nation toward freedom, and Juneteenth reminds us that liberation is a journey, but it is rooted in struggle, community, and joy. I'm Dr. Kamasi Hill, and this has been A Griot's History. Always remember, keep studying, keep creating, and keep the story alive.